All right, folks, welcome to It's the Goose, the live video retrospective for January 18th, 2025. If you can hear me, go ahead and let me know in the comments. I just want to make sure that we're all up and running. Everything sounds okay for you folks because we have a good one today. Osmosis Jones. I am very excited about this one. This is one that I haven't seen in a long time, a very long time. So I want to just know that everybody who's here, everybody who's coming here, we're going to just talk for about 15 minutes, make sure people who want to watch get in the room, that we don't start right away. And this time, aside from uh, aside from the little 5-minute delay we had initially, we're going to be live now. So I hope everybody's doing well right now. And let's go ahead. If anybody's here, go ahead and let me know that you can hear me and that I'm just not talking into the air. And I would very much appreciate it. Let's go ahead also right now and read some comments for anybody who's here. Let's take a look. I know we got one already. Let's see here. Ian, the Peanuts and Sanrio fan. Hot take, I was never a fan of this movie. Wow. Because about everything I hear about people talking about Osmosis Jones is always positive. Everybody always has the greatest things to say, and I've honestly never heard anybody have anything particularly negative to say about it. And I always hear I guess I would say the thing that I hear that's the problem with the film most people have is that they say it's very gross. And I haven't seen the movie. Well, I'll go ahead and ask this question. Well, we'll give a couple minutes. Let's see. Will Wonk, you sound perfect. No audio issues. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that, Will Wonk. Thank you for letting me know. Um, so I guess before we get too much into Osmosis Jones, I want to give a little bit of an update for just something to come tomorrow. Let's go ahead and go here. Yeah, look at that. Look at those graphics. Look at that. Isn't that the best uh the best transition and the best slide you've seen since 2005? Beautiful. But for those of you who follow the channel normally, tomorrow we are having a new video retrospective released. First one of the year. I'm very excited. It's for Marsupilami, which was on Disney Channel and CBS as part of Rockoonage, first on CBS. Then it got its own series on CBS, and then it was in reruns on Toon Disney and other Disney Channel affiliates and Disney Channel, Toon Disney. But yeah, I'm very excited about this. So I'm curious because I remember Toon Disney. I remember Darkwing Duck. I remember DuckTales. I remember a lot of Toon Disney shows. The thing I remember from Marsupilami were two things. Was one, how he looked initially. And the second thing I remembered about Marsupilami was how he was in the theme song. Every time the theme song would play, the low voice would go, Marsupilami. Those are the only two things I really remembered from about Marsupilami. So it was pretty interesting to get back and to see how the show actually was. I don't know anybody that ever talked about it. And you can look online too. Everybody always says, oh, Toon Disney, Tailspin, DuckTales, Darkwing Duck, Gummy Bears, every show, but I don't think I've ever heard anybody talk about Marsupilami. And the craziest thing is, the show, you'll go ahead and see my opinion of the show itself coming up tomorrow at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. But also, the story behind it is pretty impressive. I don't know if any of you know that Marsupilami is actually from, I can't remember the exact decade, but it's like the 1950s or 60s, or I want to say like the 50s or 60s, which that was unexpected to think about that. And what happened to Marsupilami after it after the series, after the 13 episodes with Disney, it actually had a life of its own, and it had a pretty incredible life. So what I enjoy doing with these titles. Disney's biggest failure. It is a big failure for Disney, but not in the way you think. So I'm excited for that. I hope you folks are too. The first video of the year. I can't believe the last one before was the last unicorn, and I was really happy with you know, the um the interaction people had about it, you know, with each other and the comments I got to read because last unicorn, I guess some of the points I brought up were a little polarizing about mostly not enjoying the unicorn when she turned into human. Even before, she was just not a very nice character, and I understood why. I had prefaced it by saying, you know, I understand a tree is a tree. She's intrinsically this way, but I still didn't appreciate maybe how she acted. And people really got on me for that, but it's fun. Like, I never take it personally. We're talking about a cartoon that we all like or that we've all at least seen. So it was a really cool thing to see. But not having a video over the holidays was nice and relaxing. It gave me a chance to catch up with other videos. Um, Marsupilami is going to be tomorrow. I'm working on the one finishing up the script for March's video. We're going to have a lot of fun things. And I have a surprise at the end of this retrospective for everybody. So, you know, after it's over, don't go anywhere because I'm going to need your folks' input for something special I got planned. So let's go ahead and read some comments really quick. We're going to start at 420. So we have Ian, the Peanuts and Sanrio fan. I was never a big fan of this movie. Then again, I haven't seen the whole movie. Okay, and I'm going to get to that as a larger point coming up. We have Ian says Inside Out was way better. All right, so I'm going to give you a quick rundown about my experience with Inside Out. I have never seen Inside Out. I have never seen Inside Out 2, X. And I was actually going to watch Inside Out 2 on a plane because the person I was flying with said, "Oh man, amazing um it's this amazing movie and you have to see it. You know, the first one was great, the second one's great too, and the second one made $1 billion." And so I started watching Inside Out 2 on the plane. You know, me and this other person were sharing a headset, and I think they said they had seen it, but they got bored during it. They're like, this is not fun. Let's watch something else. So I maybe watched the first 5 or 10 minutes of it. I can't really say. So maybe if that's something you folks want to see me talking about Inside Out and Inside Out 2, then maybe we can, you know, maybe we can do that. But that's my extent with it. So let's see who else has joined here. We got, let's see, Ian still. The 1990s Hello Kitty and Friends series was on Toon Disney, which I found interesting. I don't have a lot of experience with Hello Kitty. I've actually wanted to get into it for a while. Um, but it just never was something I actively seeked out. Um, you know, I would like to. I think it'd be cool. The only like I know Karopi, I think I had played when I was a kid, um, some computer game and it had Karopi and it had Batsmeru. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I apologize. Um, so like I think the characters are really cute, but I just don't really know anything about it. So, you know, I'm always looking for recommendations. So if there's like a Hello Kitty movie or if it's a series or um, anything in particular that you folks think I should watch or that we want to talk about, or I'll even make shorts, you know, that's fine with me. Then let me know. You know, I'm always open for suggestion. Marcus Blackwell, hello. Good evening, everyone. Hope you guys had a good week. Yeah, I'd say, you know, every week that I'm alive is a good week. So I'm just happy to be here with you folks. It's fun to actually it's fun to have these scheduled. I wish I could have a more consistent schedule for these right now. I'm hoping in the future that we will be able to, that we could say, all right, every Saturday or every Sunday or every whatever the day is. Or not every, but like once a month. Like I would love to do these in between the time that we put out a video. Um, So, 2 weeks in or a week and a half later, like a Saturday, a week and a half between one retrospective and the next. I would love to do that. Um, Scheduling and trying to get ahead of videos, though, you know, we'll see what happens. But I'm glad to be here with you folks. Uh, you got to watch the first one before the second. I adore both movies. Ian, regarding Inside Out, I do have to see it. That would be one that I do definitely have to see because it's like the highest grossing animated movie ever. So I feel like I should probably see it. Jeanette, hello, Jeanette. I haven't seen this movie, but now I'm curious. I like body horror, so this seems viable. Yeah, well, it's actually pretty. I'd say it's pretty scary, and not in the ways I expected, but that are actually for kids. I'd say pretty traumatizing and adults. So this was definitely a surprise to me in every way possible. Um, and I'm just gonna say right now, so we got a couple more minutes because I am gonna get started at about 4:20. Um, I'm gonna do two things really quick. I'm going to excuse me. I'm gonna do we're gonna have another goal just for, and this is just a goal for anybody who can contribute. It's gonna be, if you weren't here last week, what we did was set a goal to hopefully get um some equipment for the channel. I might need to get a new microphone because mine is possibly broken. It's working right now, thankfully. We got it working, but um, still navigating a little bit around that, and to get a mic cover. So if you can donate, I totally appreciate it. And I wanted to do a little incentivizing as well. Um, if somebody wants to donate, you know, we'll say $50. I want to do the movie that you donate $50 for. And right now, I understand $50 is a lot. So if we have like if we have somebody saying, "Hey, I really want this movie. Can I donate X amount?" Let's definitely go ahead and make it work. And I will actually do a live video retrospective on the movie of your choice. So we'll say it's at $50 right now. Maybe we can do some wiggle room if the movie's shorter. But I really, like I said, I want to make it so I can put some money back into the channel. Hopefully, get a new microphone because this one's kind of on the fritz. Hopefully, um, get a microphone cover so
Most
sound
homeowners
better.
have it.
And yeah, so in return, I think it'd be fun to um, be able to do more videos that you people specifically want. I'm just going to go ahead and put that in here. If we don't reach it, not a problem at all. I don't want anybody to feel pressured. Um, so yeah, just letting you know. Let's go ahead and take a look at some more comments as well. Let me get that pulled up. Okay. Sorry, I'm just putting the goal in right now. All right. And hey, like I said last week, the thing I appreciate most is you folks being here and hanging out and talking about cartoons. So that's the most fun thing ever. Let's see here. And yeah, like I said, I can't read every comment because I'm gonna actually try and stick to the time limit here. So if you do want your comment read like right away, definitely go ahead and super chat. It can just be $1 or 99 cents, whatever you want to do, 50 cents, however, whatever the minimum is, I'll read it. I just want to try and get as many people's comments as I can, while also doing this in not 3 hours time like the Iron Giant, which was super fun. But at the same time, I realized not everybody's going to stay for 3 hours. So I'll read a couple more comments and then we'll go ahead and get started. Let's see here. Will work. I never really saw Osmosis Jones until about middle school, but I really enjoyed it mostly because I prefer movies with classic animation and more aggressive villains, which this movie nails both of. Absolutely. And it was surprising to me the way they worked in the animation and the live action and how effective it was. I'll go into it more once we talk about the movie. But yeah, the villain, who we'll get to as well, definitely terrifying. Um, let's see here. Let's go to we'll go to Ian. There's also a Hello Kitty anime that talks about neglect. It's called Mom Loves Me After All. I think I mentioned on your stream once. It just hits home a lot. It's emotional and well written. Yeah, I'll definitely check it out. And I see at the end, Ian, you put sorry for all the comments. Please comment as much as you want. I'm going to try and get to everybody's comments as many as I can during the stream. I might not hit every single comment. Like I said, if you guys want a super chat, I'll read your comment for sure. But no, I definitely appreciate the interaction. I like it. That's the fun part about the live streams. Like I do the normal video retrospectives, and those are fun because I get to give my opinion. But I love the comments and I love everything on the videos because I get to hear what you all have to say. So please don't apologize. Comment as much as you want. And I'll go ahead and do one more thing before we get started. So I want to know because I've been very curious, and I kind of started to bring this up, but Osmosis Jones. When did you first see Osmosis Jones? So I know that we had a couple people say middle school, but I'm curious. So was this in middle school at a friend's house? Was it in the movie theaters? Was it uh, just on TV? I know Cartoon Network played and still does play it quite a bit from what I remember. I think that's the channel it's on. But for me, when I first saw Osmosis Jones, I was at a friend's house. He had a birthday weekend, and there's two movies I specifically remember him playing there. One of them was the classic parody movie Spaceballs, um, which, man, as a kid around that age, so hilarious, such a funny movie. It was like it blew my mind as a kid. And the second one was Osmosis Jones, which I didn't really remember. I remembered a few particular scenes. Like I of course remember the characters, but I remember a few of the live action scenes which were so disturbing that I can't even seeing them again. I think they were even grosser than what I had in my head, which is pretty impressive to do. And let's go ahead and say, let's see what you folks say about that. Will work Oh, sorry, Will Wonk. Agreed. The mixed media aspect of the film is so perfect, even if the live action segments are usually the most critiqued sections. It's still a really nice touch most films don't do anymore, sadly. And I'm going to argue with that point once we get there, but I could not disagree more with what the critiqued live action segments are. Um, Jeanette, let's see here. Okay, at Ian the Peanuts and Sanrio fan, don't be sorry. It just means the comment section also gets to share what you love. That's true. The more you comment, the more we get to know each other, the more fun it is. Because the conversation isn't fun when it's just one way. So please continue to comment. Marcus Blackwell. I first saw the movie in my 11th grade high school class, but not much of it. I saw its spin-off first. Yeah, I think it's called Osmosis and Drix, I think it was called. I remember that being on for maybe a year or so. I never really watched it, but yeah, 11th grade. That's a pretty cool way to spend an 11th grade class. It sounds like you should have been paying attention to that since it was in class, but it sounds like the teacher was having a day where they really weren't concerned about teaching biology. Um, let's see here. Jeanette Spaceballs was fabulous. Couldn't agree more. And I want to see it again. I heard they're making a sequel to it. I don't know how. I don't know why. I mean, I can assume why, but strange choice. Strange choice. Will Wonk, middle school in class, eighth grade. We watched it in class for an assignment since my teacher loves it. Spaceballs is an immaculate film, also. Thank you. All right. I love that not only is everybody into cartoons, but everybody apparently has great taste in live action movies, too. Love it. Um, Ian, the Peanuts and Sanrio fan, never was a gross out person. You should make a Discord server. Okay, so here's the truth about that. I don't know how. I don't know anything about Discord. Um, I sort of like know what Reddit is. I am the least technical person ever, as you can see by my by these slides with this fancy text. So, shoot, if anybody knows how to do it and wants to give me a really good step by step and the benefits of it, I mean, hey, as long as as long as people enjoy whatever it is you do on Discord, then, I'm of course open to whatever. Marcus Blackwell, the teacher in the class wasn't showing it for fun. Don't worry. Then that's concerning. If your teacher is saying like, "Hey, watch this. This is going to be really good for for teaching purposes," then might be a little bit of concern there. I prefer Blazing Saddles, but I agree that Spaceballs is a masterpiece. I do too. Blazing Saddles totally underrated, especially like compared against Young Frankenstein. But as far as westerns go, another show that's underrated. I know it's not a movie, but The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. If you haven't seen it, Bruce Campbell um, as a cowboy when he was younger, fantastic movie. Um, but with that, I guess let's go ahead and just for anybody who's joining us now, I guess I'll do the intro for when I cut this and post this. So, hey everybody, welcome to It's the Goose live video retrospective. Today we're going to be looking at Osmosis Jones. So, if anybody here who's live wants to contribute in any way, go ahead and put comments in the chat. If you want your comment for sure read, go ahead and attach a super chat with it, and I will definitely get to it. And if you're watching later, I hope you enjoy. And if you're watching now, I also hope you enjoy. So let's go ahead and let's get started. Um, yeah, uh, so the movie surprisingly starts off in the real world, and we see Bill Murray and his daughter at the zoo where he works. And I know that a lot of movies have a tendency to sort of start in the real world, or they might have a little bit, but I feel like the cartoon comes a lot quicker. And so I was surprised to see a couple minutes of live action with no indication that there's any cartoon to it. Um, but he yells at the monkey for being classless because the monkey's like walking from tree to tree, kind of like showing off, spreading his legs and stuff. And he yells at the monkey for being classless, and then he does this, which is so disturbing, so gross. I can't believe that. And this is directed by the Farley brothers. So they did Something About Mary, Shallow Hal, um, I think The Heartbreak Kid as well. Like a ton of super hilarious, funny, legendary Dumb and Dumber movies. So they're definitely pros at gross out humor. But man, I mean, if you open your movie on Bill Murray doing this, I mean, two things that I didn't expect to see when the movie first started were live action humans for an extended period of time and something so gross. And this is in the first 30 seconds. So I'll give it to them. That was unexpected. But his daughter tries to encourage him to eat healthier, but Bill Murray tries to justify his bad eating while putting he's putting salt and I don't know, it's like mayonnaise, salt and mayonnaise on a hard boiled egg. And he tries to say, well, your mom didn't care about eating healthy. Uh, but then his daughter kind of guilts him into working out and eating better, and he promises to, and the whole time he's talking to her for like a minute, he's just salting the egg. But the sweet moment is actually interrupted by a monkey who Bill Murray's watching over, and Bill Murray and the chimp fight over the egg. And look at the egg is in the chimp's mouth. And Bill Murray fights him for it because he wants the egg. And if you'd have told me this is going to be the movie, Bill Murray fighting a monkey for an egg, I would have watched it in theaters when I could have, or I would have seen it. I would have been watching this the day I heard that. Um, but Bill Murray wrestles the egg away from the monkey and he eats it. And yeah, like I said, it's the most disgusting first 5 minutes in history. But we move inside the mouth where the egg is chewed up, and two white blood cells are in a helicopter. The younger one, shown here, named Osmosis Jones. And they're on tartar control in his mouth. And even though he wishes he was kind of going big time fighting veins or fighting diseases in the veins instead. And Osmosis Jones, he's sort of like, well, he's played by Chris Rock in this movie, and it's a cop movie, so he's sort of this hot shot, and not a hot shot, but he thinks he's a hot shot. He thinks he's always destined for bigger, better, greater things, and he kind of is. He's a little slighted that he's over here on tartar duty rather than having some bigger purpose that he's fulfilling. But he looks cool. Like I really like how animated he is. Like he's sort of like this cell. He's a white blood cell, so he can move his face a lot. He can stretch it, he can move his eyes around, and he can do things. Well, we'll get to that later, but he's a really cool character. I like the look. The movie looks really cool. There's some 3D, but it's not very invasive. It's mostly kept to backgrounds and certain characters. But Osmosis Jones, he looks really cool, I think. But yeah, so they end up finding signs of germs from the egg, and they're on the hunt, calling in ground support, which is right here. And they're in the mouth, so they do see danger, open cavity. Like he has a cavity in his tooth, and they have these guards watching over it. And what the movie does so well is it shows the body, how the body works in a real scientific medical way, but in a really creative vision. Like it reminds me of like kind of how everybody was talking about earlier. You would see in science class where it's these low budget movies where it'll show, a person and their hands and legs are extended and you just see like almost like Slim Goodbody where you just see their insides even though you're seeing right through them. And and it's just like every low budget science kids cartoon come to life in the most realized, professional, beautiful way. So, like already everything is pointing to this being a great movie. And, like I said, we're just in the first 5 minutes, so it's pretty cool. Um, but Bill Murray's character, like everything he does affects these cells. So when he yawns and it acts as like a big wind tunnel to everything inside of him, especially the mouth. And the elder cell yells at Jones. He goes, "I told City Hall we need more sleep." Like that's hilarious that getting sleep is some bureaucratic thing where if he doesn't, he'll obviously yawn and it creates like a disastrous potentially situation for the cells. It's just I love how everything that Frank does because he's like the Earth, he's their world. So if they mistreat their world or if they don't do their jobs inside, it's going to affect them because it affects Frank. Or sometimes external things will affect Frank and it'll affect them. Like when pollen gets in his nose, he'll sneeze, and so they have helicopters to destroy the pollen before it gets in. Otherwise, he'll sneeze. It'll be very gross. Jeanette says, this kind of animation style reminds me a lot of Treasure Planet, actually, which I also love. I never saw Treasure Planet. I heard it's great. I always hear Treasure Planet and Atlantis are extremely underrated movies. I've never seen them. I would like to, so maybe we'll do that sometime. Maybe we'll do that on here on the channel. Um, so so the cells are swept into Frank's body, and his insides are a major city, which is cool. It's sort of what you'd expect going in, but it looks great. It looks like it's creative. It's a funny thing, like the Glands Hotel and Casino instead of the Sands. Uh, there's also the there's also a poster on one of the buildings or one of the spires or pillars or poles, and it reads "Peace in the Middle Ear" instead of "Peace in the Middle East." I love that. I love little things that you can just point out or look at um, that don't have any real bearing on the story, and they're just for fun. They just help build the world. So it was a cool little, excuse me, a cool little thing to see. But rather than obeying orders and returning to the mouth, Jones takes matters into his own hands and jumps from the helicopter he's in to try to take the germ out on his own. And as he pursues the germ, we get to see one of his abilities, probably his most important ability that he can do, and rearrange his body in a liquidous way to be able to slip through the cracks and do other things. Like I said earlier, he can kind of rearrange his face and alter his body. And he ends up coming against a wall and he jumps through. And he goes through because he's able to slide through the crack. And he ends up shooting at the germ who is driving away. But his shot ends up hitting the main nerve receptor and it causes Frank to have a cramp. And he complains. And it's funny because he ends up sitting up and his daughter is there with him. And Frank is complaining that those 4 steps, and you can see right here, there's like 2 steps, but the steps up to his porch are too many, and maybe they should move so he doesn't have to walk upstairs. And one of the things I noticed is that Frank is lazy, he's gluttonous, he's disgusting, he's sort of like he's likable because you know he's a nice person, but he's unlikable because of how just gross he is in nearly every aspect of his life. And when I would listen to his lines, I immediately thought, this is what the Garfield movie should have been. Like this character, Frank, the way he's so lazy and so gluttonous and so always just trying to eat and eat and just wanting to snack on the most disgusting things. This is what the Garfield movie should have been. Like if he had the lines here that or if these lines were taken and put in the Garfield movie, I think that would have made for a much, much more authentic Garfield experience. But you know, it is interesting because he has this like horrible reaction, and I want to see where things go with Frank. I want to see how he reacts to things. So I think already Frank is a very likable character. I know somebody earlier said that the critique was that he was unlikable. I don't really see that here. I can understand why as we go later, but we'll go ahead and continue. So the cleanup crew of the mouth cleaned the egg that he ate, but bacteria and germs are on it. And also, this new red bad virus emerges with this sharpened finger. And he warns the worker that he's contagious before he scratches him. And if there's anything I remember from Osmosis Jones, strangely enough, it's the colors. Like, I remember how blue Jones was, and I remember how red this virus is, and I remember that finger, which I get the finger is this obvious weapon, this evil weapon, but it's it's kind of funny to me that it's just his long finger is gross. And I want to know what you folks thought of and his name, which we'll find out later, but instead of calling him the virus the entire time, is Thrax. So I want to know, for those of you who have seen the movie, what did you think of Thrax just on your first watch of this movie? Like, did you think that he was creepy looking, or for those of you who are just seeing him now for the first time, I think he's pretty intimidating. He's in like a black turtleneck, a black trench coat, his red hair, and that finger. I mean, that finger is just so creepy. So let me know what you folks think about Thrax, because he is definitely one of the most memorable villains that doesn't get talked about to me. So he ends up scratching one of the workers, and you'll see what happens when he does even just the simplest thing. He scratches one of the workers there, who's supposed to get rid of germs from food that comes in, and he ends up, and it's a lot worse in video form, but his skin ends up bubbling, and he turns from blue to red, and he starts to just his body just swells up before he explodes. And they show the actual exploding off screen. But by this point, I mean, you've already seen all you need to see. Like, there's nothing that's going to change the image that the kids are seeing here because he's already blown. He's already blown up. So it was pretty shocking to see him swell up, and then it was good. It was somebody said earlier, you don't really see that too often, where it's a scary kids movie, and that's right. Like this is just to the point where you would say, all right, that might be a little too much, and not for me, but I think for a general movie going audience. But he's definitely, definitely creepy. Um, we'll go ahead and go to the comments. Jeanette, I would agree. The expression they gave Thrax was incredible. He's genuinely unsettling, and he looks strong too, which is a nice touch. Yeah, I think the size of him, he's very physically imposing. It's not pictured here, but he's a very tall, broad-shouldered character. Like even the bigger characters in the movie, um, they sort of pale in comparison in size to him. So he's definitely very intimidating. Will Wonk says, first watch, I found Thrax to be really intimidating and a well written villain. I also think his design is perfect for him, both personality wise and behaviorally. Yeah, and he dresses sort of like somebody you would see in the Matrix, and it's unexpected. You wouldn't really. you wouldn't really know what a virus would look like. And I think that we all have the idea in the head where, and some of the germs here are a little more amorphous and blob like. They have multiple eyes, they look like aliens. But this guy, he's very almost elegant. Like he's something that you would see if they did like a a version, like a cartoon version of American Psycho. Like he could fit into that world almost if he went human. So he's definitely creepy looking. He's a really good villain that definitely needs to be talked about more. Um, so yeah, he is diabolical looking in his trench coat and sunglasses and his long hair, and you can kind of see him here walking away. Um, and it just makes me think like if he can see like if just one touch, one scratch makes a guy blow up, like I don't even want to know. Well, I do want to know, but what could possibly happen to Frank if he gets his finger on him a little more lethally? Um, and of course, the tiny germ escapes. So I'm assuming, at that point that we'll be seeing him the rest of the way as the comic relief. But the reporters are grilling Mayor Fleming, who's played by William Shatner, and he's great. Like William Shatner is really good in this movie. He's just a scummy politician, and he's giving reports on the state of their home, Frank. And he says that more living space is being developed by creating a third chin. And something about like, so this movie's all about bodily humor, and there's a lot of typical puns like, you know, aw spit, things like that that you kind of expect. But those aren't very prevalent in the movie, which I'm very grateful for because I'm not a fan of puns personally. I think it's a little bit lazy, especially to just to fill in jokes or fill in words, fill in empty spaces in a movie. Um, but there's the comedy writing in here is actually really good, which I was so surprised by. Like I love that line, like, oh, how are we gonna, accommodate more people who need space to live? Well, we're gonna work on creating a third chin. Like that's so funny. Like it's just funny that we've already gotten past the point of his second chin. We're going to increase his weight to the point where he just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Like there's some really sharp writing here. And so I really had to say that was probably the best surprise, the biggest surprise about Osmosis Jones was just the really sharp writing. And we're going to see some more. I did list some scenes and jokes in particular that I thought were funny. So yeah, we'll go ahead and keep though. Um, Yeah, so he watches a campaign ad from a rival, Tom Kalanick, and when his assistant Leah says that you ran on a platform, Mayor Fleming, about exercise and healthiness, he just goes, it's too much, it's too much work to change, and that's sort of the theme for the whole movie here. Like it's about change, it's about being healthy, and we'll see that more later. And it gets really touching. So yeah, it's a little foreshadowing about what's to come. Um, so Frank's daughter sees that he's getting sick and that he has a red throat. And this is what I'm talking about, where the Garfield movie would have handled this perfectly. So he's sitting on the couch eating fried chicken or sitting in his easy chair. And she's worried about him. She's, your throat is red. I'm going to go ahead and call the doctor. And as she's calling, he goes, are you ordering out? That's a line that should be reserved for Garfield. And it's so much more frustrating because it's still Bill Murray. I almost want to have the Garfield movie and just dub in the lines from this movie into that one because it would fit so much better. One of these days, I'll stop talking about Garfield and Peanuts in every single video I do, but that time will be for next time, I think. So, as she's about to call the doctor, the mayor uses the manual vocal override to basically he gets to speak, and Frank will say whatever is spoken from in his brain. And he tells her that he's fine and that he wants to take a cold pill instead. So, at the police station, right? So, he's going to take the cold pill. And at the police station, the chief chews out Jones for causing a massive cramp. So, when he shot at the germ that was trying to escape, he accidentally hit the muscle receptor, which caused the cramp that he experienced. And so the police chief chews him out for causing that cramp, and he says it's the worst one since that Taibo workout, which is funny because it does help again in world building where it's like, man, Frank has a lot of history, Jones has a lot of history making mistakes. It's just funny to think of Frank, this guy we know as the laziest human being alive, having just trying Taibo and getting a really bad cramp, and it was so bad that it's still talked about to this day. So I love little things like that. And even though they're throwaway lines, they're supposed to be funny, and they are funny, but it just really helps to set the stage for what has happened and why things are the way they are. The chief does decide to put him on a new case, but he has to work with the cold pill. The incoming cold pill is his partner, and of course, like in every cop movie, he wants no part of it. And Jones ends up also meeting with Leah while he's going to pick up the new cold pill. Um, but this is sort of my thoughts on Leah. She seems like a very nice character. I like how she looks a lot, but she isn't very necessary to the story, as we'll see, to me. Um, you know, Jones has a history with her. He says he's been pursuing her for a long time. They should get together. And she goes, there's no reason for me to get together with you. And all right, fine. So there's a little bit of maybe flirtation, at least definitely from his point of view. Um, but but there's nothing really there other than that. So it's maybe at some point we'll get like, oh, we were together, but I messed up on the force or I was too invested in the job. So, at that point, I'm willing to wait to see what goes on with him and Leah. But they do meet the no nonsense Pildrix, and he's already wanting to see the irritated areas, which is another funny line. Take me to your irritated areas. I want to see them. And he goes, all right, well, you got to buy dinner first. The dinner line, of course, standard, but it is just a funny line after take me to your irritated areas. And they drive off. And once they arrive at the scene of the supposed sore throat, Drex hoses the throat with his cooling touch. And the tiny germ from earlier, you can see him right by that opening covered in that uh, cooling spray. He gets frozen, and right before he does, though, he tells Jones that about the red virus that he saw, and so they end up taking him with them so they can find out more. And Frank and his coworker in the real world, which is played by Chris Elliott, who famously was the mayor in Schitt's Creek and has been in a million other things. They talk about their upcoming long weekend plans, and Chris Elliott says, and this is, man, it's so like there's a lot of good humor. I think it's split more into there's really good action inside the body and there's really good humor outside of the body. They both have their, there's obviously more action in the inside. There's some funny stuff on the inside, but man, I thought the live action stuff was so funny during this. Um and I want to know what you folks think. For those of you who have seen it, did you like the live action segments? Because I know that there was definitely some mixed reviews on that. But I want to know what you folks thought. Was the live action funny to you? Did you think it was annoying? Would you have rather seen the whole movie just in animated form? Would you have wanted to see the outside in animated form, sort of like how they do Inside Out? Let me know that because I am very curious because I was loving the outside stuff. I definitely don't think it would work as its own movie, but it would be kind of funny to see that spliced together, just none of the Osmosis Jones parts, just the Bill Murray parts. Um, but I thought it was hilarious. And he has, Chris Elliott in this, who's Uncle Bob to Shane. He tells Frank that for the weekend, all he's going to do is he's going to get a keg and sit in his chair at home all weekend and spend time with the wife and kids. Like, he says it in a way where he's like, all right, all I'm going to do is I'm going to get a keg, I'm going to sit in my chair and drink and spend time with the wife and kids. Like it's like the whole thing, like he's like the whole trip, I guess, was just him wanting to drink. And then the wife and kids, they'll probably be there. Maybe. And if they are, great. Um yeah, he's really funny in this movie too. Love Chris Elliott. But back inside in the armpit, the mafia, these mafia germs sit and Thrax just slices him in half. And it's not nearly as gruesome as it could have been, but it's pretty it could be pretty disturbing here. And I'm just saying it now, like there's no way that with how violent this movie is and with how gross it is, that this movie could be made now. I am fully convinced that it could never be made now. Um, and it's kind of a shame because this movie does so many things right that I like. I was saying a little bit earlier about the comedy, and I was saying about the action and the scariness. It's just things that I don't think movies would do. I haven't seen a movie that really goes this dark, and I don't even think it's that dark. I think the character is, and I think a lot of things in the live action get dark later. But I don't think that this would even be touched today. Will Wonk, I definitely liked and enjoyed the live action segments and found them funny. I just think that sometimes the humor, which was effective nonetheless, went slightly too far. And I'm gonna guess that you were talking about the gross out humor, which I definitely agree with. I think it was very gross. I don't think that it went too far though, but we'll go ahead and keep on, going and we'll see what you folks think if it went too far or not. Um, but one of the saddest scenes in the movie comes up next, which was unexpected. Uh, and it's not sad in a way with tears, but just really being let down and disappointed. So Frank's daughter Shane is at the zoo with him where he works, and she says that she wants to go hiking on the long weekend with her friends in the school. Um, but he turns her down and he says that they'll spend time with a weekend getaway together. And there's something about an adult letting a child down with a promise that's just sad. He says he promises he'll think about it. And it's just sad because she's so hopeful. She just wants her dad to get out and exercise, to spend time with him. And he says, I promise to think about it. Like he's not confirming, he's not saying, oh, definitely, definitely. He's saying, well, I promise you I will think about it. And it just feels like that's a no already. It's like, hey, can we go to the ice cream parlor? Maybe. You know that maybe always means no. So it was kind of sad to see. Um, and I do want to ask one more question about that because I'm so curious when I was watching this scene. Um, when was a time as a kid that you remember that you were really let down by a promise? I know it's a little dark. You don't have to answer it if you don't want to. I feel gross for even asking, but I was just so curious based off the scene. Was there a time you were ever really let down by a promise an adult made to you, like a parent or a family member or a teacher, and they said, "Oh yeah, definitely, no problem for sure," or they did the same thing where it's like, "Oh, I promise to think about it," and then when it didn't work in your favor, you were just so let down. I'm just curious. Maybe that might be a little too personal to ask, but this movie just got me thinking. So in between, Jones gets a translation. Well, more inside than in between. But inside, Jones calls the brain because he gets from the germ that it's that what he saw was La Roja Muerte, which means the Red Death. And I like that one of the things this movie does really well is it never feels like it drags. And I think that's really because of the two different movies that are going on. Like you have a lot of the humor, like I was saying before, with the live action, and you have a lot of great action and a fast moving, action oriented cop movie with the insides. Because I feel like if it was just the insides, it might get a little tired. It might get a little slow just with how it's paced. And if it's live action, I don't think it really would have worked at all as a kids movie. Um, but yeah, I think it's a really good choice in this case to do human live action and then animation. But he finds out that it's the Red Death, and the virus goes into Frank's nose, and he's going to make it appear that Frank is getting just a common cold before he makes his move. And it's so gross because a piece of pollen goes into his nose, into Frank's nose, and Frank sneezes into his hands, like his clasped hands. And then immediately after, his coworker, who's right there, says, Hi, Frank. And Frank holds up his hand and high fives him. Like this movie, I know we kind of mentioned a little bit ago about how gross it is, how disgusting. And for me, this is easily, it's a kid's movie, but this is one of the grossest movies I can remember in recent memory seeing. And not because it's just because of the basic hygienic things. Like I understand the insides, he's gonna get sick, he's gonna have this happen. But it's the insides, and it's just these things that he does, like where he was scratching himself in the beginning and eating the egg just full of bacteria off that came out of a monkey's mouth. And then that was inside the monkey's cage, and he puts it in his mouth and he eats it and he's sneezing into his hands and he's high-fiving other people. I mean, this is the most, at least if it's not the grossest, it's certainly the most unhygienic movie. And if I'm going to say for a reason not to watch it, don't show kids this movie just for that alone. Unless they are properly trained in how to wash their hands after they use the bathroom, please, please don't let them watch this movie. And also, we find out that the police inside of Frank are called Immunity. I thought that was hilarious. I thought that was great. Um, so the virus does end up breaking the nasal cavity, and luckily Frank snorts it back up, so um, Jones and Drix don't get kicked out. Uh, but after this, they end up, Drix ends up freezing everything, and they think they've gotten rid of the villain, who we're gonna call his name Thrax. I think I mentioned that earlier, but Thrax. So they think that they have gotten rid of Thrax, and all is well. They go to celebrate with the mayor, and there's a funny scene here where the news they say, oh, there was a, you know, crisis averted, and also in other news, we got new panda bears, panda bear crackers at the zoo today that Frank ate. Come see them. And it's just funny to think, there's always that news story. There's pandas here. Come see the pandas, and here for them, it's just panda crackers. I really like that. I thought that was a really good joke. Um, but the mayor's running. He's actually filming a campaign ad where he is going to take the body on vacation to have chicken wings at the Chicken Wing Festival in Buffalo. And he thinks it's going to help him win re-election. And once Jones, because Jones and Drex end up going there, um, that he brings up about the virus, about the major virus, the mayor totally changes. And he insists, since he has a re-election coming up, that Jones doesn't say anything, or else he's going to get fired. And he actually gives Drex the opportunity to have a different partner. And Drex says, I came here to make sure the body's okay. I want to work with him. I thought that was a really cool moment. And we haven't really talked much about Drix, but he sort of reminds me a little bit of Buzz Lightyear in the way that he he sort of reminds me of Buzz Lightyear in the way that he is into justice. Like he really cares about doing the right thing, almost to a fault where you can't see anything else. But Drix is actually like a more normal version of that, like the original Buzz Lightyear, where he actually does have some, he's a little awkward, but he does have a lot of like social acumen, social awareness, which I really liked because I think it would have been really easy to do that fish out of water. Like I'm new to the body, I don't know how anything works. But instead they don't take that, and he actually is he's a cool, relatable character. And the reason that him and Jones don't initially get along is just because the way they do things. Drix does things by the book. Jones does things a little, more out of his book, but they still want the same thing. They still want to protect Frank. And so that common vision gets them to work together, even though they don't necessarily agree with each other's methods. But I really like them. They're a good pairing, and they're a believable pairing, which I like. And they're not, Jones isn't so extreme. He's going to go haywire at any moment. Drix isn't such a stiff that he can't have any wiggle room. So it's a good pairing. It's a really good pairing. Um, so once Jones brings up the virus, they end up leaving, and Drex asks about a comment the mayor made about Jones's record, his police record, and Jones tells him about Shane's science fair, where Frank ate bad science project oysters. And the project was, could these oysters be rehabilitated? These bad oysters, these polluted oysters. And it's even funnier because this is how bad and inept this child is, where Bill Murray asks, are they edible? And the kid, he has no idea, but he goes, well, based off my research, yeah, I would say my hypotenuse says they definitely are. And you can just hear it like, wait, my hypotenuse? I love that it's my hypotenuse. It's supposed to be hypothesis, but the kid is so just. And even Molly Shannon, who's the teacher, she says, yeah, he's not the brightest. We just gave him this project to keep him busy, basically. And Bill Murray just eats the oyster, which is so disgusting. These polluted oysters, and Will Wonka says specifically the oyster scene. So it's these polluted oysters that have been out of water or in some sort of water, probably dirty water for 6 months, and he just goes up and eats them. So not only is the most unhygienic, disgusting person, he might also be the one of the most mentally deficient adults I've seen, at least in a cartoon, but definitely in live action. But man, this guy, I mean, just not too bright. And yeah, it is a disgusting scene though. Thank you, Will Wonk. That is a very disgusting scene. And there's a funny interaction. Like you can tell that Molly Shannon, her teacher character, kind of likes Frank because he makes a joke and she just has a laughing attack, laughing for a straight 20, 30 seconds. Um, and then she tells, hey, Shane, after her mother died, after Shane's mom died and Frank's wife, she goes, Shane wanted to move to the city and help people. And Frank goes, oh, like a concierge? And she goes, no, like like a doctor or something. And I thought that was funny, like a concierge. Like this guy just has no clue about anything in life, his daughter's life, or life in general. But to save Frank, so Jones keeps telling the story about how he was at the science fair, and when he ate that oyster, that it could have been a potentially harmful virus that he saw, like a really lethal one. So he hit the puke button just to get everything out of there. And he ended up throwing up all over Molly Shannon, as we can see in this disgusting picture, which I love that somebody got a picture of it and they used that at the front as the front page saying whoops. Um, Yeah, that's a hilarious, hilarious picture. And I don't even want to keep it on too long, but and I don't think I will because it's starting to gross me out. And to save Frank, so yeah, he saves Frank, and that's why Jones. He's like, I don't want to. That's the record. That's what he's living with. He's living with that guilt and mostly the embarrassment. Like he put Frank into embarrassment and he embarrassed himself. But Drex is actually pretty great about it, and he says, oysters are breeding grounds for disease. So I totally agree with what you did. And I thought that was a pretty cool thing to bond over. Like it was something that did feel again natural. Like he's right. It is something that was probably the right move in that situation. And even though the people in the body didn't like it, Drix, for his do things by the book attitude, he could empathize with it. He understood why he did it and he agreed. And so it kind of brings them closer together. And I like that. I would like to see a little even more of that, like maybe leading up to it. And then by the end, that's the big one that really gets them on each other's sides. But still pretty good. I really actually like that a lot. So he ends up breaking the news. Frank and Shane go to eat. And he ends up breaking the news to his daughter about going to Buffalo. And he ends up going to break the news about Buffalo, and she's a sweet kid. Shane is a sweet kid. She really takes it with a brave face, but she does not want to go to Buffalo for the chicken wing eating contest. And she's doing her best to be happy for her dad to go with them. But next, Jones goes to his informant, and the informant tells him that the virus's name is Thrax. And they go through a good cop, bad cop. And it's a pretty funny scene, one of those, oh, he'll do it. Drix will do it. He'll get you. I can't control him. So they do the good cop, bad cop. And I love the line at the end where Jones goes, I want to be bad cop next time. And Drix goes, you are a bad cop. That's a good line. It's a funny line. Um, but they end up, yeah, good cop, bad cop. And they end up going to this nightclub called the Zit, which is just a whitehead zit in the middle of Frank's face, and they have to sort of go undercover. And so Osmosis Jones, and this is actually something cool because I haven't really mentioned it too much, but there's actually a lot of medical jargon in here that's accurate, and I can see why everybody said that they they watch this movie in class is because there are a lot of things that were really interesting to learn that I didn't know, which is probably a little bit embarrassing to say, but that have real life applications. And so they're pretty cool to see. And there's one where Jones has to go undercover, so he rearranges his face and he ends up looking totally different. And Drix is impressed and he goes, "Oh, it's a pliable cellular dynamics. It's, a white cell defense mechanism." And I thought that was really cool because I had never heard of that. I didn't know that was a thing that could happen. And here it is appearing in the movie. So I'll definitely give this movie a lot of credit. Um, it was pretty cool to see. It was pretty cool to see that and, have it be so accurate medically. But they end up going into the zit, and one of the most random parts is there's a little song here, and Kid Rock plays one of the germs, and it's sort of a bad guy bar hangout, and there's some scantily dressed organisms in the back, which I wasn't expecting. The song, I guess, is somewhat popular. It's not really one I didn't even remember. I've seen the movie and I had no recollection of it. So, is this a song that you folks liked when you saw the movie? Did anybody else remember it? Because, there's a lot of animated songs out there. I could name probably at least, one or two from every animated movie I've seen, or at least the lyrics. I had no idea there was a song in here, and it's not bad, but it feels like a vehicle for having Kid Rock in this animated movie. So do with that what you will. I I guess it's okay. Um, but Frank ends up going to Shane's teacher to ask for help with his daughter. And this is, I mean, for all the disgusting stuff, I think this might be, I mean, he looks horrible, first of all. Frank looks terrible. And that zit in the middle of his head, in the middle of his face, is just so traumatic. I mean, when the movie gets gross, I was saying it's not even the things that are conventionally disgusting that really turn me off from that. It's just things like this. Just ordinary, everyday things like this that really, really make the really make the movie stand out as far as just being disgusting. Um, so he has a huge whitehead zit in the middle of his head, and she yells at him for humiliating her. And I guess at some point she even got a restraining order. She got a restraining order because he was so disgusting and so gross, and she was so traumatized by it. One of her kids had to change schools over what happened. Um, and inside, Thraxis explains to people how he has this DNA bead where he can take out a piece of DNA in a person's, I want to say, brain. This was a little confusing. This was one of the more, maybe not as explained as thoroughly as I would have liked, or maybe I just didn't catch it. I don't know if anybody else had a harder time with it. Um, but Thrax explains how he takes like a bead of DNA out of the body and it causes people to overheat and die. And his goal essentially is to kill Frank by breaking the record within 48 hours, and he wants to become medically famous. And that's pretty that's a pretty lofty villain's goal to specifically kill, like, you'll have villains who want to take over the world or who want to wreak havoc or destroy things, but to specifically kill a person, especially a live action person, that's pretty messed up. This is a pretty horrific scene that we're seeing here. But yeah, it's there's no buts. It's just pretty horrific to think about. And it's funny to see it in a way where it's done like this. Or not funny, but it's a little more acceptable. But it just makes you think, man, just about your insights. This movie makes you think a lot, unfortunately, but not a lot of pretty things. But Jones, who snuck into the meeting, gets caught and he's saved by Drix in the grossest scene ever where their fight makes the zit explode. This is the scene of the whitehead, that sort of roundish part over the bottom right. That's the whitehead exploding from the middle of his head into I can't even I don't even want to say it. It's exploding off his head and it goes all over the teacher's face and especially on her mouth. It is so gross. This is the most disgusting scene in the movie to me. If there's a more gross one, please put it in the comments and let me know. But to me, I don't know. Ooh, there's not a lot. It reminds me of in Run Fat Boy Run, a Simon Pegg movie where there's a blister on his foot and this it's a huge like white head blister and his friend's going to pop it for him and he does and it's all milky and pus filled and it goes all over his face and in his mouth. And this is just as gross. This is disgusting. What easily one of the grossest, if not the grossest, scene in a movie. Just again, it's not like anything over the top. It's that it's realistic. I know that it won't explode on its own. I hope not. But it's just for what it is. Ugh. For its weight class as a children's movie, this is disgusting. So the mayor fires Jones for causing a potential panic about the upcoming trip, and it ends up also that she tells her dad that she is going to go camping. And they argue about how selfish she is, that he's not taking care of his body. And as you can see here, he's got cheese puffs in a bowl, he's got nuts, he drinks beer all the time, chips. He's not the most, healthy fella in the world. And what's sad though, and we get a little more insight into the family's backstory, is that the mom had passed away, and she says that she feels bad, she feels guilty because she tried to get the mom to eat healthy when she was alive. And Bill Murray Frank says, well, she was sick, but it turns out that her sickness was brought on by unhealthy eating, and that's a very heavy topic. It's really sad because a lot of times look at Disney movies. Oh, your mother died when you were a baby, or it wasn't your fault, or not none of this. But this girl clearly has a lot of weight on her because she feels like she couldn't help her mother. And her mother ended up, despite her best efforts, despite Shane's best efforts, she ended up passing away because the mom wouldn't listen and the eating led to something that happened, getting sick, and she died. And she's seeing the same thing happen to her dad. And it's a feeling of helplessness and being at such a young age. Like, and this girl is very mature for her age, but her parents aren't listening to her and she can't force them to do anything. And she's seeing her dad kind of go the same way as her mom. That really struck a chord. That was a really tough one to watch and not something I expected to see in Osmosis Jones. And I give it a lot of respect for that, for having a very serious topic. And it's approached in a funny way, in a fun way, but that's pretty impressive to see. So the two heroes are fired and they're collecting their things and going out. And there's signs of Thrax all around. You can see his red leavings, like where he would scratch things. You can see them in the walls. You can see him moving around the body, trying to set things up. And Jones, now that he's unemployed, he goes to a movie. And the movies are hilarious. So they're all things that are from Frank's subconscious dreams. And the two funniest ones are right next to each other. There's ones like, I forgot my pants, or, it's like, it's honey, I forgot my pants. And the other one is um, about taking a test as an adult, but he's in his underwear and he doesn't know the answers. But my two favorite ones are Your Worst Nightmare, where his friend, I'm hoping it's not an actual Uncle Bob, but his friend Bob marries his daughter, called Your Worst Nightmare. And then the other one is Girls from the Bus Stop. That is hilarious. Again, things that I'm saying, reasons why you couldn't make this movie. This is why you couldn't make this movie. That is hilarious to me. And yeah, I mean, it's just this movie is so funny. It has so many good jokes in it. I'm so impressed by the writing for this movie. Um, and I'm kind of surprised that it's not talked about more in animation, but I guess that's the unfortunate reality with it. But definitely deserves a lot of respect here. Um, so Thrax sneaks into the brain and makes the temperature start to rise, and he takes out that DNA cell. I think that's what it is. Um, and Jones sees it reflected. He can see the heat start going up, and he asks somebody with like a wristwatch thermometer, and it goes from 98 degrees to 100 to 104. And Frank is getting sick pretty quickly. And There's a funny scene where Thrax is trying to escape and he hides in the subconscious and he's looking around at all of Frank's memories. And then when he finally exits, he goes, this guy was sick before I even got here. Just again, really good lines. And I know I keep saying that, but what else can you say when there's something really good? It's kind of hard to compliment something over and over. It's easier to sort of tear down, but these are just great lines. I got to be honest. So, Jones does end up getting to Drix. Oh, and by the way, so Frank is sick, and Uncle Bob comes over as Shane goes to school, and Uncle Bob tells Frank that he needs more fluids, and he hands him a beer. And Frank goes, "Oh, is beer fluids?" Like, yeah, there's wet stuff in there, isn't there? Like, these are the two dumbest guys, and I do want to see more of them. Like, I don't think the Osmosis Jones movie would work as just a live action movie, but man, do I want to see these guys' adventures. They're funny. I really like these two guys. Um, so Jones and Drix go to save Frank. They decide to save Frank together, and Thrax ends up capturing Leah. And he drives away. He actually transforms the car into that cool red car, and he drives away in a high speed chase. And it's all fun and games on the inside. Like they're trying to chase him. They're obviously trying to save Frank, but it ends up that he passes out while driving. And it's pretty traumatic. It is some pretty traumatic stuff because this is the angle we get, but where we're seeing it from is Shane when she's on the school bus and she sees her dad on a gurney being loaded into an ambulance. I mean, that's pretty heavy stuff. Like, this isn't things that you're supposed to see in a kid's movie almost. Jeanette says that's some Billings head worthy logic about the beer. I couldn't agree more. Exactly. Yeah. Um, but this is some heavy stuff to see this scene. Like, if you told me this was from a kid's movie, I don't know if I'd believe you, but hey, this is from Osmosis Jones. So much respect on that. Um, so Drix and Jones come to Leah's rescue, and Thrax is escaping out, and Drix shoots Jones out of his arm cannon, and they go flying, and they end up in Shane's eye, or at least they step on like the outline of her eye, and they start to fight. And it's gross to think of people standing on your eye or just things touching your eye. Like I'm not somebody who fears that, but I do think just touching your eye without a reason, like without contact lenses or something or eye drops, that's just pretty gross. And they end up fighting in a fun little action scene. Um, and they end up on a fake eyelash that she was putting on the bus. And Thrax actually gets stuck on the fake eyelash and it falls off her face. And and he falls into a glass container of alcohol, and he has a pretty disturbing death. Like, if you want to go ahead and put um, Thrax on the list of traumatic cartoon deaths, I'll go ahead and I'll support you on there. But here's the thing about that. Like, so he falls and you can see his skin gets peeled off and he ends up disintegrating. I just feel like there could have been a little more build up to it. And I mean, because it's such a good death, like, I just, I don't know. He fights Jones and he falls in there, but it just feels like there could have been a little more build up, a little more something. I'm not sure if I'm saying it. Is anybody else getting what I'm saying? There just needed to be a little more like he's all powerful. He's about to, because they're on Shane's eye, that maybe he was about to infect Shane, or that he was about to get away more, or he was about to do something big. And of course, it's a relief that he disintegrated, but you just want something a little else. You just want a little something else to make it a more grand destruction for him. As I feel like I'm sounding like sick saying that, but either way, a great cartoon death. Definitely put it on the top list. Um, so they're not out of the woods yet, though, because Frank ends up flatlining from the fever. And that was unexpected because I thought as soon as he's out, he's going to be all right. But it turns out that the DNA bead is absolutely critical to him living. And as you can see here, they're 107.4 degrees that Frank is. And he does flatline and he dies. And the saddest thing happens where Shane She starts pleading. I mean, look at this scene. This is horrifying. Horrifying in a way where it's just so sad. It's the saddest thing I've seen in a kids movie in a long time. And she pleads, and the things she says are just awful. Because earlier she was saying about, it was their fault, her parents' fault for not listening, and that's why they're unhealthy, and that's why her mom died. And she is such a great whoever, this actress is really good, and she's pleading and crying to her dad as he lies there dead on the table, saying that she didn't mean anything bad she had said to him and that he's a great dad, the best dad in the world. This is so traumatic. This is so. If you. I recommend this movie. I'm going to just skip to that part right now. But man, if you're going to see one part, and this reminds me of something you would see in like a Homeward Bound era kind of movie where they don't care how sad it's going to make a kid if it's going to be the right pick for the movie. Man, this scene, that got me. That actress was fantastic. The scene was horrible. Frank just dies. His daughter, who had her mom die the same way for not taking care of herself, she's about to see the same thing again. Man, that is just a really, really heavy scene. Um, Jeanette, no, I get what you mean. Hex has had a really grand build up to his destruction. It reminds me of Drake from The Pebble and the Penguin. Just a really short build up and poof, just gone. You know, I never saw Pebble and the Penguin. That might be one we have to do on here. Pebble and the Penguin. I know Don Bluth and I know everything about it. I've just never seen it. And I feel like Hexus almost had the opposite problem. If you haven't seen Fern Gully, or if you have seen it, I actually did a retrospective of it maybe a year or two ago. Um, but Hexus, I feel like, had a problem where his character introduction was really great. His his defeat was okay, but there just wasn't enough of him in the movie doing anything that much. You could see him spread. So he's a he's basically a billowing smoke pollution cloud, and he wants to destroy the forest these fairies live in. And I just didn't feel like he got enough screen time. He didn't feel, he's lethal, but you didn't get to see enough of that. And I feel like that was really lacking with Hexus. Um, so here it's almost the opposite problem. We get a really cool introduction with Thrax. We get to see him start to really affect. That's one of the things that's great about this. You get to see the physical and internal effects of what Thrax is doing, which is something really, I know that you can say inside out, but this is an actual human being, so it just hits differently. And it just makes him feel more menacing because you can see an actual reaction. And then the ending, there just needed to be something a little more, I feel. But she ends up crying, and of course, this is a horrible, horrible scene that we're witnessing. But Jones ends up getting the DNA bead back. He got it from when he was fighting Thrax, and he ends up putting it back into Frank. And Frank wakes up and he starts to recover. And of course, Shane, deservedly happy. And he says something that I couldn't believe. I thought I just had witnessed the saddest moment in a kid's film in a long time. And then he says to Shane, Mom says hi, insinuating that, of course this means two things to me. One, of course it means he realizes he had died, which, okay, that's, what a way to wake up and say that. And it started making me think, and there's no basis for this. I want to make that clear. There is no basis for anything I'm about to say right now. But did Frank see his dead wife in the afterlife? I know it's a throwaway sort of joke. It's just a throwaway line, I'm sure. But something about it just really made me feel like he might have died and seen his dead wife. I don't know. There's no basis for it, but just in my head, it just comes off that he did. I don't know. I can't explain it. Um, and then probably you go from like the nicest scene in the movie, like the most heartwarming scene, to the most inexplicable scene. So as we talked about earlier, Leah and Jones have some kind of clear history at least, but they never really did much but outside of talking during the movie. So she goes, I've been jonesing for some osmosis, or for you osmosis, and they kiss and they get together like it had been building up this entire time, even though they had no interaction, maybe two scenes in the movie where it's not even together, they're in a group of people. So this felt really forced, and this kind of is my problem with Leah as a character. She's unnecessary to the story. Like, you really don't need her at all. And aside from getting kidnapped, and I understand that she's supposed to be sort of this good side, sort of commentary to what the mayor is doing. The mayor's doing all these corrupt things, and she's the angel on his shoulder saying, "You shouldn't be doing this. What about Frank's health? What about Frank? What about, you know, doing what's right?" And he sort of ignores her. But other than that, it just feels strange to have her all of a sudden romantically realized in this way at the very end of the movie. It just seems unearned and unnecessary. So Leah as a character, I like her okay, but there's also no point to her. So it felt like it was just at the end to have these two characters kiss, which I'm not a huge fan of, but you know, she's here, so it's not the worst thing, but also maybe very unnecessary. Um, and the movie ends with, in a really nice way, with them hiking. They finally get to go on that hike. I doubt it was that same weekend. I hope not, unless Frank made a really speedy recovery. And at the top, he's sweating, and she ends up giving him a carrot to eat, and he eats it. And I like that. Like, he went through something really, life threatening, life changing, and he's going on a hike with his daughter. He's taking into account things that really matter. And at the end, the mayor is working, I'm pretty sure, in the rectum, and it says, "Do not push this button." He pushes it, and he gets aerated out into the sky through Frank. I can't believe I just said that. And they end up living happily ever after. And my final thoughts on Osmosis Jones, let me know what you folks think about it. I'm very curious because I want to see how much our thoughts line up together. Um, as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to say it like this. I want to say my opinion first of the movie and then give you the reason why. Osmosis Jones is never going to be in my top 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 movies, animated even. It's just not. I I can't explain why. Like, I like it, but I'm not in love with it. Like, this is a movie I would recommend, and this is a movie, if somebody said, "I love this movie, it's one of my favorites," I would totally get it. Having said that, I think, again, it's just for some reason I just don't connect with it in that way where it's like a classic for me. But man, this movie is so good. Like, it's an objectively, because subjectively, again, for some reason, I just can't connect with it. For some reason, I just can't get on board with. I don't have the emotional attachment, or I don't have the attachment where I see it and it really connects with me on a personal level. But this movie is so good. I think the writing, starting with the animated scenes, I think the characters are really fun. I like Jones. I mean, he's not the deepest character that you've ever seen, but he's really likable. Chris Rock does a great job. Um, there's not too many puns, which for me is sort of a big thing. Um, Drix, again, he's this by the book guy, but he has a lot of wiggle room. He knows when things are right and when things are wrong, and he's going to help. He's a good guy. And Jones is a good guy. These are very likable characters. They never go that extreme where I said earlier, Jones is just this renegade cop who will do whatever it takes, even if it means breaking every rule. Like, he cares about Frank. He cares about doing good police work. And Drix, he's there. He's sort of that mercenary for hire, on an official level, on an official scale. But he's still going to do things because they're right, not because the mayor tells him to. And Thrax, great enemy. I sort of wish we got to see more. I love seeing the physical reactions that Frank's body is having to him, how the world operates. It's not a bunch of dumb people. Like, it's not something. The mayor obviously dismisses him, but it's for selfish reasons. Like, if he weren't there for re-election, he might actually do something about it. You get the feeling. Um, So it's like it's a believable world, and it's a really creatively envisioned one. It's a creatively realized one. And for the live action things, I think they're great. I think the live action stuff is really great. I think it's disgusting. I think it's horrifically disgusting. I think Frank is a really bad example for kids. And oh man, he's just gross. I mean, I said it before, but hygienically, this is probably the most offensive movie I've ever seen. I didn't see him wash his hands once. He pukes all over a woman. He has a zit explode all over the same woman's mouth. He scratches himself. He doesn't use deodorant. He doesn't wash his hands. He high fives other people without washing his own hands. I mean, this is the most disgusting person I've ever seen in my life. Um, but he's a good guy despite that. Like everybody has something that they're not the best at, and I guess his is just hygiene, taking care of himself. But he's a nice guy. And Shane, she's not a bratty kid. She really cares about her family. She's smarter. She's she's more mature than her age because I think of what she had to go through with her mom, and she realizes that she's seeing the same thing with her dad, and it's pretty traumatic. It's pretty sad and scary, and it's got a ending that I couldn't believe. He dies, his daughter watches him die, he comes back to life, and man, what a whirlwind. It's just a really incredible story. And again, subjectively, I just can't make that connection, but this is a really good movie, a really good kids movie. It's funny, it's dark, it's heavy, it's just a great kids movie, and definitely one of the better ones I've seen from the 2000s on. And it makes me really wish the Farley brothers did more animation or just something like this. Like I never saw this the sequel series Ozzy and Drix, but it kind of makes me want to watch it. Hopefully it's got the same intensity. I doubt it does just because it's an adaptation of a movie, but if I were a kid and I had seen this movie and I heard there was an Ozzy and Drix cartoon coming out, you bet I would watch it. And let's go to the comments. I want to see what everybody else has to say about it. If anybody does have any opinions on it, I'd definitely love to know. Jeanette says, I'd have to agree here. You didn't have much interaction or bricklaying per se with the couple. I do like the wrap up though with the movie itself. I'm not sure what you mean with the couple. Do you mean Oh, you mean Frank and his wife? I totally get that. Yeah, there's not a lot there. And I would have liked to have kind of gotten a little more, and maybe that's just selfishly, or maybe it would have helped a little more. I don't know. Um, I think it would have, but I do like the wrap up as well. I think it's great that Jones and Drix are celebrated, and I guess he gets the girl, which is all right. Um, but it is a really sweet ending, just at the end, he's learning these new habits, and it was really cool to see. So, wow, we actually finished on time, 5:33. Not bad for starting 5 minutes late. Um, that's the live video retrospective for Osmosis Jones. So, again, I want to know what you folks thought about it. We have a couple more minutes here. I want to know what you thought about the movie. If you like it, if it's too gross for you, if you prefer it to be fully animated, half animated, live action somehow. I'm just curious what you all think. What you liked about the movie, what you didn't like. And if there's anything just in general um, with the live stream today that you liked, didn't like that we did. I wanted to get everybody on time, and we cut it by an hour and a half. Iron Giant was a lot of fun, but that was a 3 hour stream, and I can't believe you folks stayed for that. And I hope that this was a little more streamlined, a little easier to sit through. Not really any technical difficulties either. I'm pretty proud of that. And for those of you that are here, I do have a special surprise. So once again, I'll just pitch. I'll plug Marsupilami again, coming out tomorrow at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, the first video retrospective of the year. I'm excited for it. I hope everybody likes it. I think it turned out pretty well. I've already got February's video done, just waiting to get it back from the editor, and I'm finishing up the script for March's video. I'm trying to get ahead on that one, and then I'll say it again. If anybody wants to, you know, I'm going to be taking requests for live video retrospectives. It'll be $50 for a movie, for just a standard hour and a half movie. If it's shorter, I'd definitely be happy to work with you. If it's longer, we can go ahead and talk. Just send me an email. It's the goose at gmail.com. Um, and the last thing I'll say here is something very exciting. I'm going to be doing an interview. It won't be a live stream interview because of the time difference, but I'm going to be doing an interview with the creator and the owner of, and you might not know it from the website I'm going to tell you, but you'll know it from the picture. Drum roll, drum roll, please. With the creator, Joel from rathergood.com, and he was the creator of the Sponge Monkeys. Do you folks remember that? The Sponge Monkeys? So if you aren't from the US, I don't know if you had these abroad, but these were made by Joel Veitch, Veitch. I'm sorry if I got that wrong, Joel. Um, but they were made and they started out as a little bit. I'm sorry if these are going to give you nightmares after everything we just saw, but these were made by rathergood.com, Joel, from what I understand, and he got approached by Quiznos, and they actually used them in the, I want to say, 2000s. And they were they were called the Sponge Monkeys. They were these singing little creatures about how much they loved Quiznos subs. And they were, I don't know if I want to say popular, but they were in several commercials for the ad campaign. And they would just sing about how much they love the subs. And yeah, and I'm excited to talk to him about this. And he has a lot of really really popular really popular videos that were online that I'm sure you saw at some point. And does anybody here remember the Sponge Monkeys? Everreal the Dodo? Oh dear, I just got here and this is what I see. Yes, I know. We finished up the we finished up the Osmosis Jones live video retrospective. I'm actually going to be cutting it tonight and posting it um, during the week, just the review part. So I promise you, you won't have to see these sponge monkeys. Jeanette, oh my word, I remember these things. Terrifying. Yes. So he created them, and he actually still works a lot. He's got a new show on Netflix, and I believe it's called Bad Dinosaurs. That's right. Yes, Bad Dinosaurs. So go ahead and check that out. It's a little kids show, but it's really popular. And so I'm going to be talking to him about the Sponge Monkeys, the history, for a video I'm going to be doing later. So if you remember these and if there's anything you want me to ask him, go ahead and post a comment in the community space. And just under the most recent Osmosis Jones uh, link that I posted for this live stream today, and we'll get to it. But if that's it, does anybody else have any last comments on Osmosis Jones, the Sponge Monkeys, anything cartoon related, anything channel related? Uh, it was surprisingly a little quieter than usual today. I guess I just talked through the whole thing. I was hoping to read some more comments, but maybe everybody was listening, or maybe I was just some background noise for everybody doing homework or work or just before doing something fun on your Saturday night. So yeah, we'll go ahead. We'll just go to 5:45 because I just want to hear what you folks have to say if there's anything last minute. Uh, but yeah, I'm really excited. We're going to be interviewing him, and by we I mean me. But I'll be interviewing him on Monday morning, uh, bright and early. So it's going to be pretty cool. I remember the Sponge Monkeys growing up. As a kid, that every kid who saw these was just either terrified or enamored with them. And I was in the latter camp where I just thought they were so funny and I thought they were just so weird that I couldn't help but love these guys. And yeah, they had a lot of commercials. And basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to end up doing a video retrospective on these little sponge monkeys. And there's just so many questions because they're so mysterious. When I was looking them up initially, I had heard it was from an ad agency, and I ended up finding him and I got in contact with him and um, things seemed to work out and here we go, Monday morning. So if you have any questions about anything like Netflix related, about starting a show or getting a show picked up on Netflix or writing a show for a kids show, definitely check out Bad Dinosaurs. Or if you have a question about the Sponge Monkeys or working on any kind of internet animation, I mean, this guy's been doing it for longer than a lot of folks here have been. I don't want to say alive. I don't think he's that old, but go ahead and leave those comments and under the community tab and under the Osmosis Jones one. And that's kind of like the cool little surprise that you guys get to ask any questions that you have. So if there's nothing else, I haven't heard from anybody. I hope that everybody had a good time. Let's see here. Would be nice to see this Everreal the Dodo. Would be nice to see more obscure live action animated movies. Any picks? So do you mean for live video retrospectives, or do you mean for just normal video retrospectives? Because the ones that come to mind immediately are um, Cool World, Roger Rabbit, which I already did a Roger Rabbit video, um, and I don't know if there'd really be any point to me doing a total video retrospective on it because that movie I feel like has been kind of covered to death. Um, I mean, if there's anything that you can think of, because I can't think of a lot off the top of my head. Let me just go ahead and actually look it up really quick. Let's see here. Um, live action animated hybrid movies. Let's see here. There's the Space Jam movies. Let's see. Adventures of Rocky and Bullwinkle. That would be a fun one. Tom and Jerry, I actually might be doing something with Tom and Jerry coming up. Um, it might get a mention, but Tom and Jerry is on the list for this year. And this is the 2021 one I'm talking about, but I'm talking about the Tom and Jerry movie. I would like to get to that one, the original Tom and Jerry movie. Anchors Away. Let's see, The Incredible Mr. Limpet. Cool World, that's one I know. The SpongeBob movie, that has live action. That has Um, I mean, there's not a lot. There's parts where they have scenes with animation or live action. I mean, the website I'm looking here is listed The Mask as one, which I don't know if I exactly count that. Chippendale Rescue Rangers, that new one that came out. So, Looney Tunes Back in Action, that's a fun one. James and the Giant Peach, I would love to do a live action retrospective on that. So, there are some options, and Space Jam, yeah, Bill Murray did it twice. How odd. Bedknobs and Broomsticks. So if there's one in particular, I guess Enchanted, you can kind of count that one, Mary Poppins. But let me know if there's some that you folks have in mind, because I'd be curious. I'm always taking recommendations. The Osmosis Jones ones actually was a recommendation from somebody last time. So if that's, if there's a movie you want to see, definitely let me know and we'll see about it. Jeanette, since I hadn't seen Osmosis Jones, I really liked hearing you describe the scenes. You do that very well, and I fully encourage you to keep that style. Thank you. Yeah, it's just, I mean, the only difference between this and the normal video retrospective videos is I mean, as you can probably tell, I do not um, tighten things up. I don't spend hours on the scripts. And yeah, I don't spend hours in the scripts. I just kind of do it like by slide and by things that I liked or things that and I do write a lot of it here for these live video reactions or retrospectives, but it's a little more free because I really like hearing from you folks. So maybe we'll pick something a little more conventional. Jeanette, I would be all aboard for James and the Giant Peach. Great film. I love James and the well, I haven't seen it actually since I was a little one. So that might be the next one. That's a good one. Um, yeah, so I mean, of course, if you folks have any recommendations um, for movies you want to see for the live video retrospectives, I'll put a community post for sure in the next week or so, and then I'm gonna try and give some more time, like some more um, notice for when we're gonna do one of these, because I think I let everybody know here on Wednesday or Tuesday, and I'd like to give a week or two just so people can kind of get prepared and just so we can, maybe see the movie before, have some fun. But um, today was great. It was a great time. We did it in basically an hour. And after the 3 hour Iron Giant marathon, I didn't think that was possible, but we did it. And I'm really happy. I was really pleased by this movie, and I want to do movies that you folks recommend. Jeanette, for my pick, I do Treasure Planet because I seriously want you to see it. Well, maybe I still want to do a poll, so maybe we'll put James and the Giant Peach, Treasure Planet. We'll put a couple different ones. I still have the recommendations from the last live stream we did, so maybe I'll put a poll up and see what you folks want to do. But with that, I think that's our time. And that was a really good time. Thank you, everybody who showed up and everybody who commented. It was a great time. Osmosis Jones, I give it thumbs up. Really funny movie. Really, really deep for how shallow it can seem. Everreal the Dodo, Muppet movies. I love the Muppet movies. I do. I even would go as far as to say as Muppets Most Wanted was better than the Muppets movie. And I mean the Jason Segel Muppets movie. I just thought the songs were, I thought everything was really good in the Muppets movie. I just thought it was a great movie, but I thought Muppets Most Wanted I thought it was just funnier. I thought it was less focused on plot and more focused on songs and fun and jokes. I don't love everything about it, but man, those songs are really good. Like Cockatoo and Malibu. Oh man, how fun is that? Maybe that'd be fun if we did a Muppets movie and we got Jetnik Plain. I still have to put the interview I did with her up. But if we did a Muppets movie, that'd be fun because I've actually wanted to have a guest do one of these with me. Um, and so that would be something really cool to do. So maybe I'll talk to Jet and we'll do Muppets one sometime. But I got to, of course, see her schedule. And I wanted to ask one more thing, and I promise I'll get out of your folks' hair. If there's any, because I do want to do more interviews and I do want to do more, just cartoon talk, and I want to do more live retrospectives with guests. So if there's a YouTuber that you folks like, um, let me know because I want to know who I should look out for. I don't watch a lot of YouTube. I try to work on my own stuff. Let me know who you want me to see us engage with on the channel. Um, Let me know. Well, not only let me know, but also get in touch with them. Like, leave a comment on their video that you want to see them on. It's the Goose. It's the Goose. Send them because I try to send messages. Instagram messages don't always get read because they go to certain inboxes. Um, Not everybody has their email on their YouTube, so I don't have Twitter. I can't always get in touch with people. So if you want to leave a comment on their videos too, or on mine so I can try and get in touch with them. I would love that. I'd really appreciate it because, the lifeblood of the channel is you folks and getting to know other people who love cartoons. It's the best. But I feel like I'm just rambling now. So I want to say thank you again to all the folks who came out tonight. And we're going to do another one soon, and I'll put a poll up. We'll see which one we end up doing next time. But I hope everybody has a great, safe rest of your weekend. And I will see you folks on the next one. And Marsupilami, new video retrospective out tomorrow, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Have a great night, and I will see you folks later.